Very good. Okay. Next, if a stretch of road you were driving along suddenly came to an end, what would you have to do? If a stretch of road you were driving along suddenly came to an end, what would you have to do? If a stretch of
If
road
a stretch
I
of
was
road
driving
I
along
was driving
suddenly
along
came to an
suddenly
end,
came to an
I'd
end,
have to turn
I'd
back.
have to turn back.
Very good. If a light bulb in your home started flickering, what would you think and do? If a light bulb in your home started flickering, what would you think and do? If a light bulb
If a
in
light
my
bulb
home
in my
started
home
flickering,
started flickering,
I think
I think I I think I I turn the bulb again and
turn the bulb tighter.
turn the bulb tightly again,
Mhm.
and if uh, not it's not working, I
Uh-huh.
will replace it. Okay.
With a new bulb.
With a new bulb. Okay.
Very good. Okay, that's right. You test it first before you change. Okay,
Okay.
next. Who's got the biggest appetite in your family? Who's got the biggest appetite in your family? I've got the
I've got
biggest
the
appetite
biggest appetite
in my
in my
family.
family.
Very good. What do we mean by sound advice or a sound financial investment? What do we mean by sound advice or a sound financial investment? By sound
By
advice
sound
or a
advice
sound
or
financial
sound
investment,
financial
we
investment,
mean a
we
piece of
need a
advice
piece of
or
advice
a financial
or a
investment
financial
that's
investment
good quality
that's good
and which
quality
we can
and
depend
which
on.
we can.
Where do airlines compensate passengers when journeys are severely delayed? Do airlines compensate passengers when journeys are severely delayed? Yes or no?
Yes,
Airlines compensate
airlines
passengers
compensate
when
passengers.
journeys are severely delayed. Okay? Yes, airlines
Yes, airlines
compensate passengers
compensate
when
passengers.
journeys are severely delayed. When journeys like travel, journey. Hello? Okay, oh, one more. We get like stuck up. Okay, one more. Yes,
Okay.
airlines
Yes,
compensate
airlines
passengers
compensate
when
passengers
journeys
when
are
journeys
severely
are
delayed.
severely delayed.
Very good. If you forgot your best friend's birthday, how would you make up for it? If you forgot your best friend's birthday, how would you make up
How
for
would
it?
you make it?
If I forgot
If I
my best
forgot
friend's
my
birthday,
best friend's
I'd
birthday,
make up for
I
it
make up
by
for it by taking him to the luxurious restaurant.
luxurious restaurant. Very good. Okay, next. What am I pretending to do? What am I pretending to do? You're
You
pretending
are
to chop
pretending
wood
to chop
with
wood
an
with
axe.
an axe.
Very good. Why is it better not to walk around in public with your wallet sticking out of your pocket? Why is it better not to walk around in public with your wallet sticking out of your pocket? It's better not
It's
to walk
better
around
not
in
to walk
public
around in
with your
public
wallet
with your
sticking
wallet
out of your
sticking
pocket
out of your pocket,
because someone might
or
try
someone
to
might
grab it.
try to grab it.
Very good. When you're in a hurry and have to skip breakfast, are you able to stick it out till lunchtime fairly easily? When you're in a hurry and have to skip breakfast, are you able to stick it out till lunchtime fairly easily? Yes or no?
No,
When I'm in a
when
hurry
I'm
and have
in
to skip breakfast,
to skip
I'm not
breakfast,
able to
I'm not
stick it
able
out
to
till
skip it out
lunchtime
till
fairly easily.
lunchtime.
Very good. In which part of the body do people usually suffer from cramp? In which part of the body do people usually suffer from cramp?
Suffer from cramps.
People usually
People
suffer from
usually
cramp
suffer from
in
cramps
their leg,
in their
foot,
legs,
etc.
foot.
Very good. Where would you prefer to live? In a cramped inner city area surrounded by busy crowds, or in an isolated rural environment far from any other signs of
From
habitation?
the side of
Where
habitation.
would you prefer to live? In a cramped inner city area surrounded by busy crowds, or in an isolated
In an
rural
isolated
environment
rural
far from any
environment
other
far
signs of
from any other
habitation?
signs of habitation.
I prefer to live
I
in
prefer to live in an isolated
rural environment
rural environment
far from any other
far from
signs
any
of
other signs
habitation
of habitation
than in a cramped inner
than
city
in a
area
cramped city area
surrounded by busy
surrounded
crowds.
by busy crowd.
Very good. Has this school taken on new staff recently, as far as you know? Has this school taken on any new staff recently, as far as you know? Yes or no?
Yes,
This school has
this
taken
school
on
has
some new
taken
staff
on some new staff
recently, as far as I
recently,
know.
as far as I know.
Well, what would I mean if I said I think I've taken on too
I
much?
think too
What would I
much.
mean if I said I think I've taken on too much?
Too much.
If you said
If
I
you
think
say,
I've
I
taken
think
on too
I've
much,
taken on too much,
you'd mean that
you
you
mean
thought
that
you'd
you thought
accepted
you'd
too much work
accepted too
or
much work
responsibility.
or responsibility.
Very good. Which of these two sentences is correct? He stopped off at the bank on the way home, or he stopped over at the bank on the way home. Which of these sentences is correct? He stopped off
He
at the
stopped
bank
off
on the way
home.
home, or he stopped over
He
at the
stopped
bank on the way
off.
home. He stopped off
He
at the
stopped
bank
off
on the way
bank
home
on
is
the way
correct.
home is correct
Why? Why? Because
because
stopover communicates
stopover
that you
communicates
spend the night
that you spend
somewhere
the night
while
somewhere
on a long journey.
while on a long journey.
Very good. So give me an example of stopover. Give me an example of stopover, please. On our way from
On
the
our
UK
way
to
from the
Australia,
UK to
we stopped
Australia,
over in
we stopped
Beijing
over in
for
Beijing
one night.
for one night.
Very good. In what way can a lively class of children be tricky for a teacher to cope with? In what way can a lively class of children be tricky for a teacher to cope with? A lively class of children can be tricky for a teacher
Tricky
to
for
cope
a
with
teacher to cope with
because
because such children always make a lot of noise during their class.
that's correct and they're very active as well. Okay, next. What happens if a player fails to turn up for a football match? What happens if a player fails to turn up on a football match? If a player fails
If a
to
player
turn up
fails to
for a
turn up
football match,
for a football
a
match,
reserve player
a
takes
reserve
his
player
place.
takes his place.
Whereas when two countries are negotiating in order to end a conflict but both sides are reluctant to compromise, what often happens? When two countries are negotiating in order to end a conflict but both sides are reluctant
Both
to
sides are
compromise,
reluctant
what
to
often
compromise.
happens?
What will happen?
If two countries
If
are
two countries
negotiating
are
in order
negotiating
to end
in
a
order to
conflict
end a
but
conflict,
both sides
but
are
both sides
reluctant to
are reluctant
compromise,
to
the
compromise,
countries often
the
end up
countries often end up
breaking off the
breaking
negotiation.
off the negotiation.
Very good. What do we mean by public service? What do we mean by public service? By public
By
service,
public
we mean
service, we mean
education,
education,
healthcare, public
care,
transport,
public
rubbish
transport,
collection,
rubbish
etc.
collection, etc.
Right? Do modern cars need servicing less frequently than old cars? Do modern cars need servicing less frequently than old cars? Yes, modern
Yes,
cars
modern
need
cars
servicing
need
less
to service
frequently
less
than old
frequently
cars.
than older cars.
Very good. What does the abbreviation CEO stands for? What does the abbreviation CEO stands for? The
The
abbreviation
abbreviation
CEO stands for
stands for
Chief
Chief
Executive Officer.
Executive Officer.
Very good. Would you like to be the CEO of a large international business organization? Would you like to be the CEO of a large international business organization? Yes or no?
No,
I wouldn't like
I
to
wouldn't
be
like
the
to be
CEO
the
of
CEO
a large
of a large
international business
international
organization.
business organization
Why not? Why not? Because
because CEO high levels CEO has a high responsibility for everything.
that's correct.
It causes stress, mental problem.
Stress and mental problem. That's correct. And mental stress as well. Okay, very good. Next, what does the expression out of sight, out of mind mean? What does the expression out of sight, out of mind mean?
Out of mind
The
means
expression
the
out of sight,
expressions out
out
of
of
sight,
mind means
out of mind means
sometimes when we don't
sometimes
see a person
we don't see a
or thing
person
for a
or
while,
things
we
for a
forget
while.
about them.
We forget about them.
Well, what's the opposite of saying the ship was out of sight? What's the opposite of saying the ship was out of sight? The opposite of
The
saying
opposite of
the ship was
saying
out of
the ship
sight
was out of
is
sight
the ship was
is
inside.
the ship was inside.
Very good. If somebody takes everything in life too seriously, can they end up suffering from high levels of stress? If somebody takes everything in life too seriously, can they end up suffering from high levels of stress? Yes. If
Yes,
somebody takes
if somebody
everything in
takes
life too
everything in life
seriously,
too
they
seriously,
can end up suffering from high levels of stress. Very good. Okay, so that's the end of our revision. Let's have new word.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, so now let's have first word sight.
Sigh.
Very good. Okay, listen. Sight is a verb. It means to take in and let out
Take
a long,
in
loud
and
breath.
let
Like
out a long, loud breath.
let's sigh. For
Okay.
example,
Okay.
people sigh when they are tired,
When they are
impatient,
tired,
sad, or unhappy.
impatient, and
Okay, so let's practice. When do people sigh? When do people sigh? People sigh
people
when they're
sigh
tired,
when they are tired,
impatient, sad,
impatient,
or unhappy.
sad, or unhappy.
Very good. Okay, next repeat. Vanish.
Vanished,
Mysterious.
mysterious,
Very good. Okay, listen. Mysterious is an adjective. It means strange, unknown, or difficult to understand.
difficult to
For
understand.
example, mysterious people are often
People
interesting
are often
because
interested
many things
because
are not known
many
about
things
them.
are not known about them.
Some people just die mysteriously
Some
without
people
getting seriously
without
ill.
getting seriously ill.
Vanish is a verb. It means to disappear entirely
Disappear
without a clear explanation.
entirely without
For example,
explanation.
when someone vanishes in mysterious
Vanishes in
circumstances,
mysterious
the police have
circumstances.
to investigate the
The
disappearance
investigators
in order to
disappear
find out
in
whether a
order to
crime has
find out
occurred.
whether a crime has occurred.
Let's practice. What do the police have to do when someone vanishes in mysterious circumstances? What do the police have to do when someone vanishes in mysterious circumstances? When someone
When
vanishes
someone
in
vanishes
mysterious
in mysterious
circumstances, the
circumstances,
police have to
the police
investigate
have to
the
investigate
disappearance
that
in
disappearance
order to find out
in
whether
order
a
to find
crime
out
has
whether
occurred.
a crime has occurred.
Very good. One more. When someone
When
vanishes
someone
in
vanishes
mysterious
in
circumstances,
mysterious
the police
circumstances,
have to
the police
investigate
have to
the
investigate
disappearance
the
in
disappearance
order to find
in
out
order to
whether a crime in order to find out
find out
whether a crime has occurred.
whether a crime has occurred.
Very good. Okay, last one. When someone
Okay?
vanishes
When someone
in
vanishes
mysterious
in
circumstances,
mysterious
the police
circumstances,
have to
the police
investigate
have to
the
investigate
disappearance
the
in
disappearance
order to find
in
out
order to find
whether
out
a crime
whether
has
a
occurred.
crime has occurred.
Very good. Let's repeat. Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Very good. Okay, listen. Ridiculous is an adjective. It means extremely silly or unreasonable. For
Unreasonable.
example, the most ridiculous present someone's given me is a book about how to hit children
About how
and
to
make
hit
them cry loudly. Let's practice. What's the most ridiculous presents anyone's ever given you? What's the most ridiculous presents anyone's ever given you? The most ridiculous
the
present
most ridiculous present
someone's given me
someone's
is.
given me is ridiculous present is a book that I'm not interested in.
Very good. Okay, next of it. Get away with.
Get away with
Fraud. Fraud.
fraud.
Very good. Okay, listen. Fraud is a noun. It is the crime of deceiving people in order to gain something such as money or
Something such
goods.
as
For
good
example, he's being charged with tax fraud.
tax fraud.
Get away with is a phrasal verb. It means to not be caught or punished when you have done something wrong.
Something
For
wrong.
example, I think a large proportion of
Large
people would be willing
some
to
people
commit
would be
financial
willing
fraud
to
if they knew
financial
they were
fraud.
guaranteed to get away with it. Let's practice. What proportion of people do you think would be willing to commit financial fraud if they knew they were guaranteed to get away with
Guaranteed
it?
to get away
What
with it.
proportion of people do you think would be willing to commit financial fraud
Commit
if
financial
they
fraud.
knew they were
If they
guaranteed to get
they are
away with it?
guaranteed to get away
I
with it.
think
I think 10%
of people would
of
be
people
willing to
would be
commit
willing to
financial
commit
fraud
financial
if they
fraud
knew they
if
were
they knew they
guaranteed
were
to
guaranteed
get
to
away with it.
get away with it.
Very good. Next, repeat assemble.
Assemble.
Very good. Okay, listen, assemble is a verb. It means to connect or put together the parts of something,
Parts of
such as a
something,
toy or
such
machine.
as a
For
machine.
example, the advantage of buying furniture that you
Buying
assemble at
furniture that
home
you
as
assemble
opposed to ready-made
as opposed to
furniture are that the furniture is usually cheaper and easier to transport.
easier to transport.
Assemble can also mean to bring or meet together in one place.
In one
For
place.
example, the class assembles in the classroom for the
In a
lesson.
class or the lesson.
Let's practice. Does this class always assemble in the same room? Does this class always assemble in the same room? Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
This class
This
always
class
assembles
always
in the
assemble
same room.
in the same room.
Very good. What are the advantages of buying furniture that you assemble at home as opposed to ready-made furniture? What are the advantages of buying furniture that you assemble at home as opposed to ready-made furniture? The advantages
The
of
advantages
buying
of
furniture
buying
that
furniture
you assemble at
that you
home
assemble at
as opposed
home
to
as
ready-made
opposed
furniture
to ready-made
are
furniture
that the furnitures
that the
usually
furniture is
cheaper
usually
and
cheaper
easier to
and
transport.
easier to transport.
Very good. Next a bit, go with
Go with
dress sense.
resistance
Very good. Okay, listen, go with is a phrasal verb. It means to be suitable for
to be
or
suitable for
appropriate with something.
appropriate
For
something.
example, the skirt she's wearing doesn't really go with her blouse.
Go with blouse.
Dress sense means the ability to choose clothes that make you look attractive.
Make you look
For
at
example, a person with poor dress sense tend to choose clothes that
that
don't go with one another.
with another.
Let's practice. Does a person with poor dress sense tend to choose clothes that don't go with one another? Does a person with poor dress sense tend to choose clothes that don't go with one another? Yes. A
Yes,
person with
a
poor
person
dress
with
sense
poor dress sense
tends to choose
tends to
clothes
tends to choose clothes
that don't go with
that
one
don't go
another.
with one another.
Very good. Again, next repeat studio.
Studio,
Studio flat.
studio flat,
Bed sit.
bed sheet,
Tenant.
tenant,
Very good. Okay, listen, studio is a noun. By a recording studio and a TV studio,
and
we
TV
mean the
studio,
places where music
places,
and TV programs are recorded.
are
For
recorded.
example, some actors, singers, and entertainers are gathered in the studio for an
In the
interview.
studio for review.
Tenant is a noun. It means someone who lives in a house, room, etc., and pays rent to the person who owns it. For example, tenants were told to always pay on time.
Always pay on time.
Studio, flat, and bedsit are nouns. The principal difference between a bedsit and a studio flat is that the tenant in a bedsit
Tenant in the bed
shares
sheet,
a bathroom with
share the
other people
bathroom
in the
with
building,
other people in the building.
whereas the tenant in a studio flat
Tenant in
has
the
their
studio
own
flat
bathroom.
has their own bathroom.
Okay, let's practice. What do we mean by a recording studio and a TV studio?
TV
What do we
studio,
mean by a recording studio
TV
and a TV
studio.
studio? By a recording
By a
studio
recording
and a
studio
TV
and a
studio,
TV
we
studio,
mean the
we
places
mean the
where
pla-
music, we
we
mean
mean
the
the
places
places
where the music and
where the
TV
music and the
programs
TV
are
programs
recorded.
are recorded.
Very good, one more. By a recording
By a
studio
recording
and a
studio
TV studio,
and a TV
we
studio,
mean the
we
places
mean the
where
places
music
where
and TV
music and the
programs
TV
are
programs
recorded.
are recorded.
Very good. What's the principal difference between a bedsit and a studio flat? What's the principal difference between a bedsit and a studio flat? The principal
The
difference
principal
between a
difference
bedsit
between a bed
and
sheet
the studio
and
flat
a studio flat
is that the tenant
is
in
that
a
the
bedsit
tenant in a bed sheet
shares a bathroom with
shares a
other
bathroom
people
with other
in the
people
building,
in the
whereas
building,
the tenant in a
whereas the
studio
tenant
flat
in a studio
has
flat
their own
has
bathroom.
their own bathroom.
Very good. Next, repeat hectic.
Hectic.
Very good. Okay, listen, hectic is an adjective. It means very busy and full of activity. Very busy, full of activity. Example, people with hectic working lives should make sure they don't skip breakfast because they might not find the time to eat a decent lunch later on. Okay, let's practice. Why should people with hectic working lives make sure they don't skip breakfast? Why should people with hectic working lives make sure they don't skip breakfast? People with hectic
People
working
with
lives
hectic working
should
lives
make sure they
should make
don't skip
sure they
breakfast
don't skip
because
breakfast
they might not
because
find
they might not
the
find
time to eat
the
a
time
decent
to eat
lunch
a
later
decent
on.
lunch later on.
Very good. Next, a bit costly.
Costly.
Okay, very good. Okay, listen, costly is an adjective. It means causing great loss, usually a lot of money. For example, after making several costly mistakes, the CEO took the decision to resign. Okay, let's practice. Give me an example of the word costly. Give me an example of the word costly, please. After making
After
several costly
making several
mistakes,
costly
the
mistakes,
CEO took
the
the
CEO
decision
took the
to
decision
resign.
to resign.
Very good. Okay, next repeat. Sophisticated.
Sophisticated
Very good. Okay, listen. Sophisticated is an adjective.
adjective.
If a person is sophisticated, it means that he knows a lot about things such as culture, fashion,
Culture, fashion,
and the modern world. For example, today's society means young people tend to be more sophisticated than the past
sophisticated than the
because of
past.
high technology that we
High
have.
technology we have
Sophisticated also means something which
also
is
means something
complicated
which
and
is
advanced in
complicated
design.
and advanced
For
in design.
example, some big companies use sophisticated methods to reduce their tax burden.
So expert.
Let's practice. Do you think today's society means young people tend to be more sophisticated than in the past? Do you think today's society means young people tend to be
Young
more
people tend to be
sophisticated than
more
in the past?
sophisticated.
Yes or no?
So, yes,
I think today's
I think
society
today's
means
society
young people
means young
tend to
people
be more
tend to
sophisticated
be more
than
sophisticated
in the
than
past.
in the past.
Why? Why do you think so? Because
Because young generation can easily get useful information by the internet.
by the internet, that's correct. Okay, next. Do some big companies use sophisticated methods to reduce their tax burden? Do some big companies use sophisticated methods to reduce their tax burden? Yes, some
Yes,
big companies
some big
use
companies
sophisticated
use
methods
sophisticated method
to reduce their
to
tax
reduce
burden.
their tax burden.
Very good. Next, repeat. Put up.
Put
Very good. Okay, listen. Put up is a phrasal verb. It is to let someone stay
let
in your
us
house
stay
and give
in the
them
house
meals.
and give them
For
milk.
example, oh, but we can't finish that anymore, Yowie, so we stop there for today. But very good
Mm.
practice. Thank you very much. See you
Thank
again.
you very much. See you again.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.